Hello, no one. Oh, hello. This is me, Russell Brand. Look on YouTube, answering your questions. If you're joining me live, I'm very, very grateful. If you're watching this in the future, I'm very grateful for that, just to demonstrate the liveness of the matter. I am late, someone says here. Feelings are not logical. There's a lot of people talking about the nature of the individual and the authority of the individual. I suppose this being this is one of the sort of dominant conversations of our time, isn't it? A lot of the Jordan Peterson versus identity politics is predicated on that theme. I'm sort of primarily doing this because my book, Recovery, Freedom for Our Addictions, is out on paperback. And even though this version of the book is absolutely rock bloody solid. So here are some of the questions that I'd like to deal with, and thank you all of you for your kind comments, and thanks for joining me. I'm very fascinated by that. I love his jumper. Thank you, Stephanie Gwinnett. Hello from Norway, says Suzanne. This should be interesting. It should be. It's got to be. I had a good day. Oh, yeah, there's lots of people there. Okay, so listen. Hey, Russ, says Ash, would you talk a bit more about how you curbed your sex addiction and why you no longer watch porn? I'm in recovery myself, but my addictions have now surfaced in other ways. I don't really have a handle on them at all. What do you do now when those impulses hit you? And what do you use to keep from acting on them? Cheers, mate. Now, let me say, firstly, if you were not long ago a crack and heroin addict and you're occasionally watching pornography, I don't think you need to torture yourself. That does indeed seem like progress. But ultimately, for me, recovery becomes a spiritual process. And for me, personally, I query the value of looking at pornography. I mean, just personally, I feel after I've looked at pornography, I don't generally feel better. Don't get me wrong, there's usually a moment in the midst of the pornography when I feel agitated and excited. It's not necessarily a cultural and ethical issue. It's more a personal, spiritual issue. But someone might say, I'm going to say that culture and ethics must arrive or be derived from personal and spiritual experiences on some level, mustn't they? The reason we don't steal, kill, hurt, maim is because we know those things are wrong. They feel bad to us. Now, how do I not look at pornography? Well, I recognise that often when I want to do something like look at porn or when I want to distract myself through objectification, it's because I'm feeling sad or unfulfilled. Often, I suppose, we do have erotic impulses that don't have any secondary negative connotations. You might just think, I really fancy that person, or I really feel like looking at porn, in which case it would be healthy. That's why I would never judge anybody else's use of pornography, just talking about my own. One thing I do is if I'm thinking, I might look at some porn, sometimes like Belle, one of my other mates that's in addiction recovery with me, I'm thinking about looking at porn. What do you think about that? I think it's a good idea. And they'll normally go, it's not going to make you feel any better, mate, is it? How are you going to feel afterwards? Now, it's not something that you can be 100% successful at because, God knows, pornography, it's out there, isn't it? Another question along those lines, Lisa, she says, how do I maintain a balance of working my steps for codependent relationships or still maintaining a healthy dating life? Excuse me. I find myself using Tinder and numerous other dating apps like a candy store, which also isn't healthy and leads me to believe I might have other sex addictions to deal with as well. Look, Lisa, I think if your sexual behaviour is making you feel uncomfortable, unhappy, unfulfilled, or in any way diminished, then it's worth working a program around it. 1, admit it's a problem. 2, believe it could improve. 3, ask for help. You've already approached it in this according to this methodology. I reckon, look, it's difficult, isn't it? An app that Tinder and other comparable apps do commodify sexual behavior. They make it accessible to you. You can just swipe your way through a visual orgy of human beings, perhaps on your way to an actual orgy of human beings. So again, this is not sort of a detached moral or ethical view. There was a time in my life when promiscuity was a sort of a common component. It was sort of how I lived. But in retrospect, it's not a way that I would like to live now. Not necessarily because it would be detrimental to others, although that's of course a factor, but because it wasn't positive for me. And really, is that what we're looking for? What are you looking for? You want some kind of real connection, don't you? You want to feel valuable and beautiful, and that your life has meaning and purpose. You're unlikely to find that by masturbating or meeting strangers on Tinder. So many of us, I think, are looking for something real. We're looking for love. And people have, what's the point of psychoanalysis? What's the point of religion? To help us to find some valuable, genuine, legitimate, and real connection. Jenny, which camera should I look at? Because I noticed my eye contact seems to be on this one, but then there's also this one here. Which one is my? Really, split it. So you've got opal shots to give you an option for an edit. Is that what you're doing? Oh, that's a good idea. Oh, look at Tracy. I don't like myself very much due to low self-esteem. How do I like myself a bit more without coming across as big-headed or arrogant? I find it really difficult to find positive things about myself. I think I use it as a defense mechanism because I'm always waiting on being brought down, so I do it first to avoid being hurt. I'm 42 and I've been like this most of my life. We're the same age, Tracy, and we have some comparable issues there. Sometimes I don't feel good enough either. What I've been instructed to do, guided to do, and what this program, the 12-step program, suggests we do, is if we want to feel better about ourselves, do esteemable things. Don't, again, with the Tinder and the pornography, don't engage in activity that's likely to have a consequence of making you feel less valuable or tarnished. Notice how easy it is to do that. Notice how easy it is to engage in behaviours that make you feel worse. Eating food that's not good for you. Spending time with people that don't value you. If you want self-esteem, you have to do esteemable things. That generally, in my experience, means doing things for other people, reaching out to other people and trying to be beneficial in other people's lives. Lisa, I'm sure there's a lot of people, Tracy, I'm sure there's a lot of people that care about you and love you, family members and friends. Think about how you can be useful to them. Think about how you can connect to the world at large in ways that are more beneficial. This might seem somewhat trite, pat, trivial and disposable, but can you do things that are sort of charitable and voluntary? I don't mean at the expense of your own well-being. I think you should be eating well. I think you should be exercising if that's possible for you. I think you should be working a program, analysing what it is in your past that led you to feel this way. I know a lot of my early relationships led me to feel inferior, and it's something I was able to address through the steps 4 and 5, the inventorying aspect of this program. Russell, I love you, says Kimberly Baker. Do you read my tweets or comments on your accounts? Yeah, look, I just read that one, darling. Dale says, did you ever feel a conscious change in your personality over the past 10 years? Yes, becoming a father is an identifiable conscious change. My mum's recent accident was an identifiable change in consciousness because it was a sad, sudden, frightening event. And I noticed that when it happened, my program was useful. But because I have a program, I was able to take a step back from it and recognize that the important thing was that I was useful and not like to make it about myself. So those are 2 examples. Also, when I did steps 4 and 5 in the 12-step program, it gave me a different perspective on my past. Step 5 also helped to address and somewhat ameliorate the feeling of shame I'd often had, probably because I sat and told someone all of the things about myself that I felt I didn't like or I felt weren't good enough. And when I told that other person, they said, none of them things are that big a deal. There's a road to redemption for all of us. I think that's an important message. Adam says, what's the hardest part of recovery? The hardest part of recovery, once you've stopped drinking, using drugs, gambling, eating food that's bad for you, being in sexual relationships or other relationships that aren't beneficial, spending too much money, self-harming or whatever it is, the secondary form of addiction, the relationships you get into with other people. They say, don't they, that the divine should be present in your relationships with other people. But even if you don't believe in God, you do believe in love, don't you? You do believe there is something that's benevolent and kind and loving. You do believe there are cycles to nature, seasonal life-giving forces. Whilst nature is not without complexity, destruction and cruelty, there is evidently benevolence. And if we can attune to this somehow in the way we relate to ourselves and others, that's just a complex way of saying, be loving. Be loving, try to be kind, observe your thoughts and feelings as they happen so that we're not governed by them. This does take practice and it does take a program, and that's in part why I wrote that book, because I thought I'd be able to put it in ways that people would understand. Oh, I have done that. Peace and love, says Adam. Thanks, man. Carlton Kennedy, I believe nature is better than human life sometimes. Yeah, I think so too, because I suppose in nature you don't get deliberate, in inverted commas, cruelty, but a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, neurologists and people that discover deep psychic, not psychic in that sense, deep psychology or neurology more, say that free will might be an illusion. Perhaps even the most malevolent, cruel human acts are as a result of forces that we don't understand. The inner maelstrom, the inner meteorology of mind, the weather of consciousness. Perhaps we are simply victims of it. That's why so much spirituality is get rid of the personality, the persona, the ego, see what's behind it, see what lives behind it. Sorry I'm saying all this while wearing this evil looking jumper. I've already been going for 10 minutes. I'm just going to do another 10 minutes. Russell, I got out of, what was that, Jenny? What if I want to go back and read someone? I want to go back. How do we go back in time? Excuse me, just for a moment. I want to ask the question, Russell. Mindfulness. Doc Mock. Russell, I got out of depression because of you, says Raju Jalakashmi. I hope I'm getting your name right. I am strong now because of you. I can accept myself better because of you. Thank you for being you. Oh, thanks, mate. That's made me feel a lot better about being me. I'm glad we rewound and went, look at it. Russell, did you manage to catch Panorama last night about Grenfell, says John Kelly? I didn't see it, mate. But like most British people, I've been reading Grenfell. For non-British people watching this, Grenfell is a tower that burned down as a result of, sort of council, social and local governmental negligence that seemed to broadly imply a long-suspected attitude of indifference to certain sectors of society, poor, diminished people. So, and the Grenfell case has sort of galvanised people, brought people together, made people recognise. It sort of illustrated something that was long obvious, that the powerful don't give a fuck about poor people. I didn't watch that documentary, no, mate, but Grenfell's it's a powerful, powerful emblem, the burning tower. There is great, great meaning in that, great sadness, and it makes a lot of things obvious. I wonder how that'll be resolved. I wrote about it. Check out on my website what I wrote about Grenfell. If you look in the writing part of russellbrand.com, write an article on Grenfell if you want more of my views on that, mate. Salam, Russell. Happy Ramadan. Is it Ramadan at the moment? Oh, nice one. Yeah, happy Ramadan, everybody. Hi, Russell. Jen, come back. I need you to control this because people are saying stuff and I want to read it. Russell, how do we square our quest for self-realization with the imperative of social transformation? Christ, Thomas Fraser. Our quest for self-realization should not contradict or be at odds with social transformation if what we want is a freer, enlightened and connected self. I suppose what it means is that we're always going to have to accept that people see the world differently from one another. You know, so sometimes it makes me think that the time of the nation state is sort of over, that it's hard for us to live in large groups of millions and millions of people. Why is it beneficial? That's what I think. When, you know that a nation is a construct, France, United States of America, England, who does it benefit? Perhaps we should be in smaller communities where we can have meaningful democracy. That's what it makes me think, because you're right, there are people that want to live in ways that are contradictory and conflicting, but perhaps it won't be so contradictory and conflicting if we don't live in, it's not like I'm saying less mixed societies, that's not what I'm saying, because people really like living in mixed societies. But what I reckon is, mate, focus on your individual enlightenment, focus on treating other people lovingly and kindly, and see what occurs to you, because obviously I don't have the bloody answer for how to save the entire world. That's complicated. Come back, Jen. I need you to be nearby. I need you, in fact, to make this your default position. Go back a bit because there's something about animals there. Daniel Rowling, I wish and I want my spirituality to save me from my addiction, but I have no luck. Heroin takes over every time. Life sucks at the moment. Well, mate, you're addicted to heroin. That's very difficult. You need to look at some 12-step fellowships that deal directly with narcotics and treat people anonymously and go there immediately. They're everywhere. Or if, go to one of the alcohol ones if you can't find that. You need support. It's impossible, in my view, not impossible, but basically impossible to deal with substance misuse issues on your own. Go to some meetings, seek social help. This is from Fiona. Russell, I want to ask you, is it always essential to have community peers to overcome addiction? I think it's really helpful. It's not necessary, but I think it's really helpful to have lateral support or people that have been doing it longer than you. I think it's important to be part of a community. In full stop, there's some people who are kind of little monastic solipsists, want to live on their own, me quite a lot of the time, but I need community even. I think it's very difficult to bring about meaningful change on your own, because on your own, you're just a little bag of skin with some feelings in it. So yeah, get some connections. Australian Archbishop Philip Wilson, guilty of well, mate, you know, obviously there's no complex views around child abuse. It's just not on, is it? Pithikos says, Russell, you're my idol since I was a young and I wanted to be just like you. The positive side, because we've all seen the foul love you. Thanks, that's just a compliment and I love those. Have your views on responsibility. Come back, Jen. Have your views on responsibility. When I'm reading, Jen, you've got to stay with me, doll. Have your views on responsibility of the individual as opposed to power structures of society evolved after your conversation with Jordan Peterson. Certainly they have evolved because Mr. Dr. Jordan Peterson's got some very forthright views, but I was very interested in that thread by Seth Abraham on, sorry, Jenny, I want to get out. Seth Abraham talked about metamodernism. Now, that's something I'm going to need to read a little bit more about, but there are definitely power structures that inhibit and prohibit the power of individuals. There are definitely hierarchies. Professor Peterson don't query or question that, does he? And I think if we are living within evolving power structures, then it's possible that challenges to those power structures would evolve with the same veracity, truthfulness, and what do I want to say, right, as the structures that already exist. Basically what I'm saying is the people that are ruling don't have a divine right to rule. Challenges to those structures are inevitable, even by the measure of their own presumed right to rule, i.e. if we challenge those structures, if we want to overthrow those structures, it's as valid and legitimate as those structures themselves because we're all the result of the same emerging and evolving forces. I hope that sort of makes sense. Adam, thanks for bringing out Recovery, which is an awesome book. What inspired you to publish it when you did? Because I recognised as I got more and more, there's the book, more and more clean and sober, that the addictive tendencies that were present when I was a drug addict and alcoholic were presenting in other forms of my behaviour. And as I began to understand it more, I thought I could articulate it in a way that would be accessible, because the 12 steps as I was presented them, which I think are a masterpiece, a work of genius, has a lot of language that seems dated. So I thought I could update it a little bit. So that's one of the reasons. And also I think it's sort of, it's relevant because it affects most areas of life. Addiction's a good template, a good model for understanding all behaviour, I think. Frashagua Omega, Russell, I've never heard you talk about a vegan diet. Are you not convinced by the vegan philosophy? Yeah, definitely. It's definitely, if I could press a button and become vegan immediately, I would press that button. I think it's a bloody good way to live. I think it's the answer from a health perspective and an ethical perspective. Every so often, I'm like a little junkie around that cheese, and I have a relapse, but there's no question it's the right thing. Talk about Kundalini. Kundalini, it's a divine energy at the core of our being, which apparently, if we can access, it's a transcendent force. A lot of people think that this bandwidth of consciousness that we live on is not the only bandwidth of consciousness, that we can access different forces. Some people say that in the quantum world, what we're seeing is the early geometric poetry of the formation of matter, and through our own consciousness, limited as it is by our individual identity and our individual form, through certain techniques, sometimes through, taking hardcore hallucinogenics, sometimes through meditative practice, we can access different realms of consciousness. Kundalini being a driving, powerful life force, as represented by this serpent here. Primitive life form, isn't it? It's just a mouth and a belly, just some guts wiggling along the ground. Reptile, it recurs, doesn't it, throughout mythology? Anyhow, the Kundalini energy is a powerful, some say sexual, all agree creative energy. I hope that's enough Kundalini for you there. Vincent 37, 1 a.m. or lamb. Cody Spring, do you think happiness is a choice? Is it all just internalized? I think part of it's a choice, but there's no question that people do have very difficult things happen to them. People get hurt, people die, people get sick, but you can, to a degree, alter your attitude towards those things. Brotherhood of the Snake, though that means. Did you see the last thing on what's this here? Did you see the recent segment on rehab on Last Week Tonight with John Oliver? Any thoughts about the corruptions and recovery rates from these rehab centres? I'm not surprised to hear there's corruption. Anything that's about making money, there's always corruption. I didn't see it, but John Oliver, I like that guy a lot. I've known him actually for a long time. I think he's a good bloke. You can trust him, would be my guess. Give the chance to the new generations. You're right, says Spartake Papa. You're right. Arman Asadangabi. Jenny, put Arsan back. What the hell are you doing? Sam, you're being censored by the system. The system's censoring you. Hi, Russell. I've been having a terrible time, Jim. I've been having a terrible time dealing with my relationship. I find myself always being insecure and afraid of being abandoned. How can I not fuck this up? You've got to trust that you're lovable, haven't you? You've got to trust that you're lovable and beautiful and not try to control things. Let go a little bit. The world's not going to screw you over, mate. You're going to be all right. Again, as I've already suggested to people, work a little program. Work a little program. You know, you can get it through my book, but you can get it for free elsewhere. 12 steps. There it is on the back of the book. That's a little basic guide of it. And then look at sort of 12-step literature available for people with alcohol problems, drug problems, sex problems, gambling problems, food problems. Use it to format your life. Find like-minded people. Choose mentors. Be benevolent and kind and loving. My friend Jenny here, who I work with, says this is £4 at the moment off Amazon. £4? So how much is a pint of beer in England now?
5.
You shouldn't know that, alcoholic. So it's less than a pint of beer. You can cure yourself from all addictions. God, I don't know what it is to get a gram of Coke these days. How much is a gram of Coke? Jenny, how much is it for one of each? One brown, one white, brown and white. It's about £22. I found out you can sometimes get free for 25. And that's not the point. Drugs are bad. Books can be good. So yeah, check out my book, man. I mean, there are other ways you get that stuff for free. There's more to this than money. Hello, Russell. Love all your podcasts, especially the ones with Dr. Jordan Peterson. Will you have him on again in future? Yes. Yes, I will. What's the most useful thing you've learned about spirituality? Says Shalom McGivery. Be loving, be kind. Don't be hard on yourself. Don't treat yourself bad. Don't talk bad about yourself. There's something divine and beautiful within you. Don't get in the way of it. All right, I'm going to clear off now. That seems all right, doesn't it? I hope you've enjoyed watching this on YouTube Live or perhaps as a recorded thing. And if it was badly edited, that's the fault of Jelly Finn. Sometimes you might find it on the internet as Jengo. Thank you, Jen, for doing your work here. Thanks, all of you. I love you very much. Stay with us. We'll continue to evolve together. Bye.